not a YouTuber, just like making videos. And in this video here, we're going to go back into Black Lives Matter. Now, this video here is going to be a response to a YouTube channel that goes by the name of No Bullshit. And this guy makes a response to a Black Lives Matter activist. So, I'm responding to somebody who's also responding to someone else. And it's not that I'm defending Black Lives Matter. Not like I'm so gung-ho, and I'm so sensitive about the subject matter, and I'm like, oh, somebody makes an anti-Black Lives Matter video, oh, how dare them. I've watched plenty of videos that has their criticisms and critiques of the BLM movement. Dr. Boyce Watkins, there's people saying Black Lives Matter is about, black feminists and lesbians and so forth. But, so, I'm saying, I'm not opposed to anybody with just logical critique of the movement. But this video here, published by No Bullshit, is the wrong way to go if you ever want to, make a video, an anti-Black Lives Matter video. But for him and his followers, it doesn't, make a difference, because the name of his video is Black Lives Matter is still bullshit. So therefore, there are people that's going to thumb up his video just for the title alone, rather than sitting back and analyzing his information and his talking points. And his talking points were very generic. It's almost like, if you type up, anti-Black Lives Matter data, it's type of stuff that a computer will automatically spit out and so forth. Just this whole, a very generic response, and the same talking points we heard over and over again. But without further ado, let's go.
Assassinating black people. I'm gonna go ahead and assume you're talking about the cops, I guess, who are not assassinating anyone. If cops are forced to shoot black people, it's because they did something wrong that got them there. Cops aren't shooting blacks or anyone for no reason. They're shooting criminals who are threatening other people's lives. And
here we go. I would like to say that woman, that female, that black woman there is fairly attractive. But we see this guy's talking points already. And I understand his channel is like one of them anti-Black Lives Matter, anti-social justice warriors channel, whatever, that is gaining a lot of traction on YouTube. But, but see how he has his pom-poms up for the police. And that's the thing. So even if you don't agree with the Black Lives Matter movement, you've got to recognize that there is a problem with law enforcement in this country. Now, of course, he made this video before the whole Justine Diamond incident, but he says that, if the cops are shooting somebody, they're shooting them because they're committing a violent crime or they're a threat to the public and so forth, when I can run a whole laundry list of people that were that were executed by the police that wasn't a threat to anybody. And that's why some of these cops, even if they didn't get indicted, they've lost their jobs. But
president to enact a law and order administration, all to make them shoot first, to make them ask questions later, make them scream, "I thought he had a gun in his hand."
so what, you think the cops are all just faking these violent crimes they're stopping? Even these videos you cherry pick show that the people the cops are arresting are resisting, at least a little bit. So even if they were innocent at the beginning, they're doing something wrong now. You can't resist arrest, even if you're innocent. And I love how she says our new president is enacting a law and order administration. Like that's a fucking bad thing? Law and order is good, you fucking moron. We live in this thing called society, and yeah, it needs a few rules to work properly. One of which is don't commit crimes, don't steal things, and don't try and shoot people. Sorry if you're not used to these laws and rules, but that's how we run things here. Welcome to Western civilization. And I know the black people like it in America because you're not trying to move back to Africa or anything. So if you want to live here in the best country in the world, you gotta follow a few simple rules. Not stealing and resisting arrest are just a few of them. I'm really starting to think these Black Lives Matter people think they're above the law. I mean,
things really go off the rails. So therefore, even if I'm somebody that's willing to listen to this video with an open mind, you know, and say, hey, let me hear what this guy has to say, he may actually have some good critique or some good analysis of the Black Lives Matter movement. The fact that he brought up the whole we're living in Western civilization, as he, you know what I'm saying, throw that in our face as if Western civilization is pretty much a code word for white. I'm like, technically Mexico is Western civilization, you know, because it's located to the west, you know, the west of Africa. But you know, because I never hear anybody say Southern civilization. They always say Eastern civilization and Western civilization. You know, never really Northern or Southern civilization. You know, Northeast civilization. But that's a code word for white. And he's saying, hey, you know, like he's saying, hey, black people, you know, hey, we live in this. We have to have law and order here. I don't know where you guys come from, where, you know what I'm saying, but here in Western civilization, he acts like we're immigrants or something that just got off the goddamn banana boat. No, black people helped build what is, you know what I'm saying, what we classify as Western civilization, you know, brought up on them slave boats. And then he brings up that old going back to Africa. You know, they love bringing that up like an old dirty dish rag, like you know what I'm saying, an old rag that you need to throw away, a rag that you shouldn't even have there in the first place. We say, I'm going to use it over and over again, you know, and so forth. So therefore, I have to really question his own intellectual ability. You know, the guy's a moron. He's an idiot. And it's not that I'm defending Black Lives Matter, because I don't actually agree with everything that woman says in her video. But to go and use up these fucking generic, rudimentary talking points that we heard over and over again, like, hey, you must like it here, you're not going back to Africa. Most Americans, white or black, don't even have the ability to up and move to another state, let alone move to another country. You know, why is every time black people criticize America, criticize the government, oh, well, you can go back to Africa, when white people criticize the government and criticize things all the time? You know, why can't we say, hey, you don't like it here in America, just go back to Europe? And then he talks about law and order. You know, like, hey, we you know what I'm saying, it's all about law and order. I don't know. We live in a society where you can't rob and steal. You know what I'm saying? He sounds like a hamster on a running mill. He says, you can't commit crimes, you can't rob, you can't steal. Well, robbing and steal would go into committing crimes, because all you had to do is say, you know what I'm saying, don't commit crimes and so forth. But technically, the Black Lives Matter movement is really pro-law and order. Actually, it's pro-justice. It just said, hey, you know what I'm saying? Because in no way did she ever despise law and order. In no way did she say, oh, let's just run around and do whatever the fuck we want to do. We don't need rules. No, the Black Lives Matter is like, hey, the same rules don't apply to us. We can't get justice. We can't get law. We can't get order, you know, here, because the people who are selling bootleg CDs are getting shot, you know, and so forth. You know, and that's the thing. You know, and then when we go on about what exactly is, then he says, America, we're the greatest country on earth. I'm like, oh, Lord, you know. I'm like, you know, that's objective. That's an opinion, whether we're the greatest country. Because a lot of people in Europe is, you know, they're not breaking their necks to get over here. But as far as law and order goes, I'm like, we look at other countries around the world and we see what their president, their ambassador, the people in power do to the poor people, or the civilians of their country, and we criticize them. You know, or Saddam Hussein was gassing his own people, or you know, are these laws that we consider fucked up in other countries? You know, women got to walk around, cover up, and so forth, and these public executions. And we say, oh, look at this is a bad country. We need to go and bomb them and liberate those people. But that's law and order. You know what I mean? If a dictator says nobody's going to wear a hat, if you walk around the street wearing a hat, you're going to get shot. you know, and then we see videos of people getting shot just for wearing hats. Technically, that will fall under law and order of their country. So, you know, that it's silly, you know. In all these other countries, we criticize them for having harsh laws and like, oh wow, you chopping somebody's hands off for stealing a Tootsie Roll and so forth. But okay, let's move on.
The description of a suspect, and she was threatening us to shoot and kill Philando Castile, Charlena Lyles, Keisha Michael, Keith Bursey, and Waukesha Wilson.
Oh jeez, this old line again. I can't fucking believe black people still bring up Philando fucking Castile as a good example. I don't know if you know this racist bald black lady, but the guy who shot Philando was cleared of all charges. Know this racist bald black lady, but the guy who shot Philando was cleared of all charges.
Know this racist bald black lady, but the guy who shot Philando was cleared of all charges.
Racist bald-headed black lady. Now we're going into personal insults. This is where I stopped watching the video. Well, I watched it in its entirety, but there's no point in talking about this video at this, because whatever he was trying to do, he destroyed his whole argument, you know, and so forth. But of course, this video was made for people who already had their mind up. It's not made for people that just want to have an open mind, who's like, let me hear what he has to say. You know, I like Black Lives Matter movement, but I'm willing to listen to any sort of objective criticism of it. You know, he just said, racist, bald-headed black lady. You know, as if saying, oh, you inferior creature. How dare you criticize our great Western establishment and so forth. You bald. I'm like, what the fact is she being first of all, she's not even bald-headed. You know, she has a low haircut. If she was wearing weave, then you still criticize her. That's a hairstyle choice. That has nothing pretty much to do with anything. But these anti-social justice channels, anti-Black Lives Matter channels, like they follow like the same fucking transcript. You know, all we talking about, listen you moron, listen you dumb, listen you idiot. This is how, you know, it's like they want to be so kind of blunt and saying, hey, this is how things are and so forth. You know, they don't. And then he mentioned, he says that Philando Castile is a bad example, because she brought up Philando Castile, and he's talking about, you're going to bring him up again, as if that's, oh no, that's still fresh in a lot of people's memory. And actually, he's a great, I'm like, he's a great case for Black Lives Matter, because, you know, we're talking about a guy with no felonies. You know, he was compliant to the officer. He was reaching for his ID. Officer said, hey, give me your ID. You know, when he grabbed his paperwork, the officer got scared and shot him. You know, and that's how. And if you feel that all these police shootings are justified, then why do these cops lose their jobs? Why is there multi-million-dollar payouts to their family? You know, it's not like, you know, we have these wild, reckless gunmen going up, shooting up the place, and the cops shoot him, and then this cop loses his job, and the family of that gunman gets a bunch of money and so forth. So, therefore, but, you know, he wants to change the narrative, and he wants to change things that happen. Instead of just realizing, like, hey, I don't agree with Black Lives Matter, but there is a problem with the police. He's like, you know, it's like these people, they have so much angst against Black Lives Matter. If Black Lives Matter said that fire would burn you, these guys that make videos setting themselves on fire just to prove Black Lives Matter wrong. But that's all I want to say for this video. I don't think that this guy, you know, his video is not helping things. You know, but of course he's like, hey man, I'm gonna make this anti-Black Lives Matter video. It's gonna be filled with bullshit. I'm gonna get a bunch of thumbs up. I'm gonna get a bunch of views and make a bunch of money off this and so forth. So, and that's what YouTube and that's what YouTube has become now. You know what I'm saying? YouTube is turned into garbage. You know, that's why I left YouTube for a while. But thanks for watching. Never stop learning, and never sally forth.